Dude, if I have to stand in front of this fucking camera and give the same stupid intro I keep giving, the hey, so you probably watch Subahibi. There's like not a lot of videos about it. I'm just not even gonna try anymore. I give up. I give up on the intro. I'm just gonna get into it. Zakuro's a bitch. And I mean that, okay? I mean that. And Takuji did nothing wrong, for the most part. And all of you people who, who the fuck wrote on the wiki that Takuji only cared about Zakuro for lustful reasons are missing the point and are just as bad as her. Okay. It's gonna be hard to make this video because Zakuro goes through a lot of shit. Shit that I really wish that she didn't even go through. I mean, she didn't deserve that despite the bad things that she does. Or bad things that she thinks, I guess. And, it's going to be hard to make a video criticizing her, but I think it's a discussion that needs to happen. Subahibi fans seem to endlessly glaze Zakuro as this beautiful angel. And I guess the author does too, because she actually gets a proper send-off and gets to live out her fantasy, while Takuji just kind of fades in irrelevance and never gets any real conclusion up until Suino Sora, which is basically like a shitty porn game that you have the remake of it that he made 10 years later, where it mixed in all the dog shit that is that game. He gives this beautiful send-off to a character who I think he even recognizes he kind of snubbed in his own game. Because Subahibi is all based around Takuji. As much as the game kind of devolves into this whatever melodrama about incest and Tomosane and all this boring shit with that. It starts out as being this game about this otaku who, due to the abuse of his mom, creates these different personalities of his idealized self and his self-hatred for himself, and tries to justify all the wrong that's happened in his life by convincing himself that he is something greater. Something that I think a lot of otaku have probably done, whether consciously or subconsciously. And, it just kind of goes with the territory, and then he starts to look down on others because of that. And I've never seen a better portrayal of the otaku mindset ever outside this game. I mean, it's really beautifully made. The way that he interacts with other characters, his internal monologue, his delusions, his his spiraling sanity, all of it. It's just so masterfully made. And I'm not here just to glaze Takuji. I want to talk about Zakuro, who is the other character that I think really makes the game for me. As much as I call her a bitch and dislike her, I still think she's an amazing character because she is one of the most accurate representations of your female anime fan or your bully girl who had a heart in high school. Now, there's a lot of things that aren't going to be realistic. I mean, most girls in high school aren't getting violently assaulted constantly and having everyone out for their head or whatever. Same thing with Takuji, you're not getting forced to cross-dress and getting raped. Trust me, this game's good. It's just there to be shocking. The rest of the story is actually really well made and well written. But but anyways, so yeah, all that stuff happens to them. But we're gonna kind of ignore that. Plus, it's not that relevant because during this point in the story, Zakuro, none of that stuff happens to her. Zakuro looks down on Takuji as basically scum for being a little bit weird. Despite all the bad stuff that happens to both of them, he tries to relate to her, but she, for the simple narcissism of wanting to put someone else down and feel powerful for the first time in her life, decides to hate him and reject him for little to no reason. None of this stuff is even known to Takuji, by the way, which is another really brilliant part about the story. When they first meet, Takuji is burning some manga because the heroine wasn't a virgin. Very confusing scene because the manga he's burning is like a magical girl one, I think, because he writes later, Riru-chan's a whore or whatever, who's like the magical girl in that story. And Zakuro goes, oh, I like that manga. Takuji, being bullied with no friends, wants to finally, talk to someone about stuff he enjoys, but then he remembers the last time he did that, which was, I think, in middle school. He tells a girl about manga, she talks to him back about it. She says, oh, this character is so dreamy, I'd get with him if he was real. He's kind of like you. And then he misinterprets that, because she leads him on, basically. He writes this heartfelt love letter, and she reads it in front of everybody, and they all interpret it as him being lustful and call him a creep. He's like, I want to marry you, you're beautiful. Base incel, doesn't understand social standards or cues or anything. Does that, and then after that point, he realizes that women don't really like anime and manga the same way men do. Which is just true. They really just like the cute pictures, They don't really resonate with the stories because they haven't really been through anything. And when he hears that she likes the manga, he decides to be dismissive of it so she doesn't get the wrong idea. He goes, oh, okay, that's cool. I don't really care. Oh, yeah, you know some shonen? You know, he basically fedora tips her like, hey, bitch, name 5 anime. Not really. He's still pretty nice about it. And it rubs her the wrong way. But the bullies that she's running away from start coming, you know, because every fucking guy in this game just wants to rape and kill everybody. And every girl wants to help him out who isn't the main characters. So Takuji, out of the kindness of his heart, decides to let her into his underground base underneath the school that if she found out about, could easily tell the teachers or the students and get it destroyed and basically make him lose all of his stuff. Now, why is he hiding out underneath the school? It's kind of a long story, but you know, he's just like a Sigma incel and he has like his anime figures there. It's a very, very strange story, but it's really cool when you think of it. You know, it's kind of like he's shut off from the world. It's like the ultimate otaku room. You know, surrounded by light novels and stuff. He goes down there and shows her the entrance to it, not all of his stuff. And he freaks out because he's like, shit, I helped her out out of the kindness of my heart. But there's a good chance that she might have been lying about that, or they might have set her up and she's going to go tell on me or whatever. So I need some kind of insurance on her. So he pretty reasonably asks, okay, show me something that's embarrassing that you did or about you. And of course his mind goes away with himself. He's like, I hope he shows me a fucking porn or something, because he's like a pervert or whatever. So he thinks about that. Pretty harmless stuff. And he just thinks about it. She shows him her shoujo manga she's writing. And he's pretty nice about it. He's like, oh, this is okay. It's pretty bad. I don't remember if he calls it bad or not. I know he thinks that, but I think he says it's okay. And he says, okay, she draws manga. Maybe she's like a real anime fan. He fucked up because he lets her in. And she sees all his figures and stuff. And she's grossed out and she runs away. As he's trying to be genuine and passionate, starts talking about the stuff he does. Never have anyone to share these things with. He gets excited. And she runs away and calls him a creep. This is someone who's being chased by bullies. Everyone wants to rape her, apparently. Has it pretty bad. But she has no sympathy for him. Just because he stutters and he's a little bit weird, she runs away in sheer disgust. And that's something that always stuck in my head, because from Takuji's perspective, and as the audience, when you read It's My Own Invention, you assume that the reason she ran away, due to her killing herself in the previous chapter, was probably some kind of thing she had to do, some kind of abuse, something important. But in reality, it isn't that. In reality, it's just a superficial reason. She just creeped out by him. She goes home. Takuji gets bullied. He has nobody to turn to. Zakuro gets bullied. She has 100 guys trying to help her out. Obviously they're like older guys or whatever, but she still actually has people saying, oh, I can help you from the bullying. She starts a thread, if I remember right, on the underground message board for the school, and all these people are trying to help her out. I don't remember if that's what it was, but basically, yeah, obviously some of them were going to have dubious reasons for that, but some of them probably didn't. She just assumed they all did and brushes them all off. This is something that I found really interesting because it's a very accurate depiction of the female psyche that isn't favorable to them at all. I think the reason a lot of people don't mention this is because, first off, they're going to sound like an incel saying that. Second off, maybe a lot of people who read this are very feminine and probably think similar things and see the worst in everyone no matter what. Because that's what Takuji did, but when he tried to be genuine, his suspicions are right, Most of the time when you think that you're thinking too much, you probably aren't. You're probably right. And the fact that he was right is so heartbreaking, and it never left my mind. I think that's why this story resonated with me so much. It's because I think about that moment, and I just keep thinking about the way Takuji was treated by these characters and how realistic it really was, and how there's no other depiction like it. Anyway, so Zakuro eventually falls in love with, like I mentioned earlier, he makes multiple personalities based off of what his mother wanted of him. So he basically, let's just think of it outside of the story. This is like the fake version of him. This is like the matcha drinking, boba, 6'8" by the way, a feminine version of himself. And Zakuro instantly falls in love with that version. She can't love him for his true self. She can only love him for the surface things like, he's interesting, he reads. Nothing that an actual guy would want to do. She falls in love with the feminine and fake version of himself that's trying to conform to what people want. That's why he created the Yuki personality to begin with, is it's what his mother wanted out of him. And she realistically, like most women would, ends up falling in love with that version of himself, but hating the real version of himself. And she debates with himself which one's actually true, which, is interesting that she hates a version of himself who is more similar to her, probably because women always look to something higher than them. They date up. And Takuji was just trying to resonate with her. Now, from his perspective, she runs away, and he thinks that it was for some other reason. And over the course of the story, we start to see him earnestly fall in love with him out of sympathy. He says, or fall in love with him, fall in love with her out of sympathy. And he says, oh, I should show her my manga next time. I should try and ease her pain. We get to see a side of him that, for a game that makes him out to be so evil, could really only be written from the perspective of somebody who is trying to give him a fair shot. There's a lot of likable things about him. And a lot of this gets misinterpreted as lust, but even this desk scene where he fucks her fucking desk, he still is loving when he's having sex with the desk. He still says, oh, I love you. It's not a completely lust-filled scene, which, I skipped all the 8 scenes. That's the only one I read just because it's so ridiculous. But, yeah, so Takuji was able to feel sympathy for someone like this, while Zakuro was completely disgusted by him simply for being a little bit off. Is there anything else more fucked up than that, honestly? Like, is Zakuro really a good person because she went through a lot of bad shit? The way she reacted to it was fucking scummy, if I was being honest. And something else I think about is after Zakuro finally gets raped, because that's what her whole story is building up to, and the reason why she killed herself, she says to herself, I'm finally as low as Takuji. So being completely desecrated makes you as low as some guy who's basically through similar things like you, but he's just a little bit weird. No logic behind that, no rational reasoning. They're actually not really all that different, the positions they're in. I mean, actually Zakuro is in a way better position because plenty of people are trying to help her. But only then does she say, oh, I'm finally as garbage as him. Fucking disgusting character. So I just wanted to, this isn't going to be a long video or anything. I just want to touch up on that. Kind of let it bake. Let's see what people think about it. Is Zakuro a bitch? I think she's a bitch. And I think femcels are fake. Because if a woman's getting bullied, there will always be a guy who wants to save him. If a man's being bullied, no girl's going to help. They're going to look down on them because they date up, because it's in their instinct, it's in their nature. And Skaji understanding that is truly a testament to how well of a writer he is. Yeah, he's liberal. Yeah, most of the messages in the game are Reddit. Say about, oh, God's not real. All that preamp, whatever the fuck you want to call it, all that spiel about that. But the characters, the otaku or Takuji is a fucking phenomenal character. And there will never be another character like him. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Fuck Zakuro, Takuji gang for life. Bye.